the potential is vast. Some of the areas we could do that's so vastly untapped. Renewable energy, it's viable, it works, it can be done. And then there's the food production as well. At the moment, around 7% of the total protein comes from the sea globally. Seafood is massively important as well. And there's huge growth opportunities in aquaculture, for example, and also in reducing seafood loss and waste. Another area that's interesting is data. If we want a stable economy, a stable ocean economy, we've got to have stability in terms of data. We've got to have the data to enable us to make better decision making. This needs to expand greatly. There's so much scope for innovation there. The countries are calling for, we want more data at less cost. And the way to deliver that is through innovation, is automation, use of AI.
So basically 3 main pillars: energy, food, and data.
Yeah.
Let's try and go a bit deeper on each of them. I'm continuing my quest to find out where the demand is for startups to build in the blue economy. Today we get a big picture view that identifies 3 pillars: energy, food, and data, and the opportunities lying within each of them. Tom Pickerell thinks that this is where founders should look, and crucially, he thinks that a lot of it can be done by leveraging existing technology. He's been an advisor to government ministers, heads of states, and company CEOs on scaling a sustainable ocean economy. So he's got a well-rounded understanding of the challenges, the opportunities, and what needs to be done. I'm Fede Gobbi, and this is another episode of The Ocean Age, the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators in the blue economy. Here it goes. Tom, would you mind giving an overview of, who you are and what's the sort of work that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. My name's Tom Pickerell. I'm the Global Director of the Ocean Programme at the World Resources Institute, and I'm also the head of the Secretariat of the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, which is a group of 19 serving heads of state who have come together to advance and secure a sustainable ocean economy.
One question that keeps bugging me as we go through the panels and discussions is there's a lot of talk about the importance of the ocean economy, how much the ocean is an asset, how much it provides jobs, and there is potential for growth. We talked about some of the numbers. I'm sure you want to mention some of those, but where is the actual demand? Where should entrepreneurs look if they want to come in and do something?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And what we're seeing a kind of a shift in the last few years, really, where the focus previously on the ocean has been sort of conservation driven.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's absolutely essential. We've got to have a healthy ocean. That's like the baseline for all these potentials to happen. It must be healthy. But we're seeing the driver now be more around food security, energy security, and sort of territorial security. These are the areas that are driving the discussion and the debate at the country level. And I guess it's a sort of a sign of the shifting geopolitical landscape we're in. But that's fine, because it's pretty similar to the conservation-driven approach, because you're doing that for conservation purposes, but also to generate food and energy as well. So it's just a kind of a reframing. So we've done some research on the state of the economy, and the value of the ocean is between $2 to $3 trillion, depending on sort of the metrics. I know it's a big difference, but it gives you an idea.
I mean, in any case, it's a huge number.
It's huge, but the potential is vast. If you consider some of the areas we could do that's so vastly untapped. So renewable energy, sort of offshore wind, offshore tidal, wave power, all this sort of energy production is there. It's viable, it works, it can be done. And then there's the food production as well. So at the moment, around 7% of the total protein comes from the sea globally, but that's a flat figure. And if you look at some countries, it's like 20% of the protein, and some small island states, it's like 50% of the protein. So seafood is massively important as well. And there's huge growth opportunities in aquaculture, for example, and also in reducing seafood loss and waste. Another area that's interesting is data. Now we're seeing, if we want a stable economy, a stable ocean economy, we've got to have stability in terms of data. We've got to have the data to enable us to make better decision making. And there's something called the Global Ocean Observation System, which is where all these data on things like salinity, temperature, wave height, wave frequency, that are used in modeling, used in forecasting. This needs to expand greatly. There's so much scope for innovation there. The countries are calling for, we want more data at less cost. And the way to deliver that is through innovation, is automation, use of AI. So that is a real area of sort of demand just there.
So basically 3 main pillars. The one, energy, if I understand correctly.
Yep.
Food.
Yeah.
And data.
Yeah.
Let's try and go a bit deeper on each of them, particularly with from the lens of what founders, the ocean economy brings a lot of technical founders to look at the problems that exist and develop new innovative solutions. But I'm also conscious that some of these industries are, in some cases, quite archaic, old-fashioned, need to transition. And so that could be an opportunity as well. So maybe we can think about it that way and, what could be done in sort of practical terms in those areas. So energy.
So what drives the sort of the energy transition here is climate. We are trying to transition away from fossil fuels. That's the aim, and there are a number of alternatives there. The ocean provides us with a huge opportunity to shift away from offshore oil and gas and transition to renewable energy. And in fact, some research we've done shows that we can, if we were to do this properly using existing technology, this is just existing things like wind farms, we could make a saving of 5 gigatons of carbon equivalent emissions a year, which is...
That's possible today.
That could happen today if we transition away and we transition to existing technology. So that is the first opportunity there, is supporting that transition away. And it's not about telling countries like, you've got to stop oil and gas. It's supporting countries make that decision themselves. So for some countries, wind power is not going to be viable because maybe they're in the tropics or the doldrums and they don't have wind unless they have sort of typhoons. So that's not necessarily applicable. But what about floating solar or current power, things like that? So there's real innovation there. The other side of that coin as well is you've got the transition there. But what are the other innovative solutions we can look at using the ocean or even sort of coastal areas? Because not only does it do that carbon dioxide equivalent savings, it's new jobs, it's new technology, it's the training side of things. Another report we've done looking at employment says if we were to have a just transition, there's a potential of 50 million new jobs. And that's without the innovation side of it as well. This is if we just do a transition across. So that's an incredible amount, particularly for coastal communities.
It is, and without any new technology, essentially, or without any innovation.
That's right.
How would that look like? How would that be possible? And what are the barriers?
The barriers are political will, mainly.
Really?
That's it. This report we've done looked at all the different, there's 7 sectors in terms of climate transition. And the total saving would be equivalent to 35% of the emission reductions needed to stick to that 1.5 degree trajectory. So over a third, just switching to existing technology. So that's a slight dietary shift away from red meats to seafoods. That's decarbonising shipping, decarbonising tourism, so the tourist ships and cruise ships, the offshore oil and gas, nature conservation, and there's another one I can't remember at this point in time, but there's 7.
I'll count later.
Yeah, so that's 14 gigatons.
Yeah, and all of this is possible right now.
It could be done, theoretically, it could be done tomorrow. None of this stuff requires innovation. So can you imagine what the potential could be with innovation?
It's incredible. And I mean, I guess the other consideration is it's probably going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, that's one of the costs. It's not as simple as saying, right, we're just going to convert these ships to run off ammonia, because you've got to have the port facilities as well. So you need to have the bunkering available at ports. Now, cities, 42 of the top 50 ports in the world in terms of volume are linked to cities. So they're right in cities or next to cities, like the Port of LA, for example, or Port of Singapore. So one role for innovators here is to work with the cities as well, to show them that this is how we can future-proof your ports to work on decarbonising shipping. So there's certain key things we need to do. Not only will this have benefits in terms of making the ports sort of climate ready, will attract the shipping operators who are keen to make this move. It has air quality benefits for the local population, which obviously reduces health costs. It's just so many positives of doing this. And if you tie in nature conservation with the ports as well to add that additional buffering, it's just an incredible amount. But it does require that. It's almost like seed funding or priming of the cities, because they've got a lot of priorities, but this is something we can actually really push towards them.
And who pays for it? Is it just as simple as governments?
Yeah, governments or cities or the port operators. Yeah. The shipping lines in many cases are ready to do this. They said it doesn't matter what we run on. We can't run on air. We've got to have the facilities at the ports that we're traveling from and traveling to.
By the way, this might be a stupid question, but what is the alternative to diesel for?
Ammonia, hydrogen.
Right.
So these are what we sort of class as sort of green fuels. They just do not have the emission profile of sort of heavy diesel. And this technology is available now.
Why is it not happening? Why is it not happening?
A lot of it is inertia. A lot of it as well has been hindered by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization meeting that took place early, in October. In April last year, there was an agreement at the IMO that they were going to bring in this new regime that would really accelerate the transition to green fuels. And then just literally 2 weeks before the October meeting, where it was due to be sort of signed and sealed, one country, heavily pressured countries, to vote against it because they refused to accept the provisions of it. And so this was despite many people in the actual industry themselves supporting this. So in the absence of this framework, this global framework, we have to work with the coalition of the willing. So these are the cities, even cities in some of the country who is putting against it are for this. So we need to work at a sort of a subnational level. That's the only way we can advance these things at the moment with this sort of fragmented landscape.
What are the drivers at play? I mean, in this case, is the political sort of direction of a particular country? Is there other parties, entities lobbying for the status quo? Is that part of it?
Yeah. There's petrostates, of course. It's all driven by money. And it's the same as the plastics treaty. There's a number of petrostates, because plastic is produced through petrochemicals, are against the plastics treaty. They want it weakened, or they want it focusing on different elements rather than reduction of use. They want it more about recycling. So that it's all driven by that.
Okay, this sounds like a lot. Right, from the point of view of somebody like, say, an early stage founder that or somebody that wants to come into the industry, into the space, and make a difference in some way, it sounds a bit like, a bit overwhelming. What are small chunks that people can say, okay, here's something I can do somewhere I can make a difference. I don't even need new technology from what we're talking about. It's just, I suppose, looking at a problem and trying to implement a solution using existing technology. Can we maybe think about an example of that? Or
yeah, absolutely. And I think if you were a funder or you were looking to invest into something because I'm keen to improve the state of the ocean in some way, one element would be the nature conservation angle. Now, this is a big black box as well, and a lot of people could pour money into projects and maybe not see a return or maybe not see any benefit from it. So it can be quite an interesting discussion here, but bear with me. So marine protected areas are areas that prohibit some form of activity in, and it depends on what the protection is for. So you may be protecting the seabed, and that wouldn't necessarily stop fishing for fish that swim at the top of the surface because it's not interacting with the feature you're protecting. So it's not necessarily everything must be stopped here. So a lot of people are interested in marine protected areas because it's a nice visible thing to support.
Quite a few panels and discussions
That's right,
in
yeah.
the last couple of days were about that.
And of course, it's linked to the Global Biodiversity Framework target, the 30 by 30 goal, so 30% protected by 2030. So it's got big political drivers here. One area that needs to be bottomed out is, how do you, as an investor, if you're looking for a return, get a return on a marine protected area? So there's a number of different sort of theories being sort of bandied about, like, fisheries will rebuild and spill over and we can get a return on licensing, and very complicated, not always guaranteed. And also sometimes the scale of the MPAs, have a massive impact on that. So one opportunity would be to support studies into what are the investability opportunities for a marine protected area. Then that would actually give people much more clarity around that. And it's like, right, I can invest in this type of marine protected area, and my expected return is for this. For example, you could have a permitting system to allow people into the marine protected area, and that permit, there's a license fee or a permit fee, and that brings some return on it. Or there may be some sort of landing levy on product that you do that, but that won't work if it's a complete no-take zone, for example. So that's something that is interesting. If you wanted to take it even further, it's looking at the seascape as a whole rather than just as a small area like a marine protected area. And this is where this approach called the 100% approach comes in. And the 100% approach is you protect 30% and you sustainably use 70%.
In terms of
a body of water, yeah. Generally, this is viewed as national waters, so out to 200 nautical miles. So waters under a country's jurisdiction. And you would have a plan for managing 100%, 30% protection, 70% sustainable use. Now, we have tools to do this called Sustainable Ocean Plans, or SOPs. These tools set the framework for this, and they show how everything can be managed holistically in a way that is not fragmented and is ultimately successful. There's a lot of countries who are interested in this. 8 countries in the Gulf of Guinea, for example, want to take this forward, but they don't at the minute have capacity or the funding to take this on. If someone was keen to invest in something like this, if they were to support these countries developing their plans, you could imagine a situation where you have new opportunities in the waters. Then you can put in a licensing fee. You can have, this area is put aside for marine offshore wind, for example. And there's all sorts of opportunities to have that return on investment. That's different from the marine protected approach, because that's obviously generally about non-use. But if you take
100%,
100%, you actually,
untouchable.
yeah, so it could be that case with a marine protected area. Yeah. If you're looking at the 100% approach, then you actually are incorporating 70% use, and with use comes revenue. So I think that's a real opportunity there.
Yeah, and it sort of combines the old-fashioned sort of extraction system.
That's right.
With an element of protection.
And also an element of sustainable management. So you can be assured that the extraction is going to be done sustainably. And it's not going to be done at the detriment of other sectors. Because what we see at the minute, we have extraction, of course, but quite often the extraction is managed in a way that is not taken into account of everything else. You could have a fishery that's overfishing or extracting that's actually having an impact on some species that is important for the tourism sector. Or you could have a wind farm that comes in that's impacting the nursery area for the commercial fishery. The benefit of this holistic approach is all these elements are taken into account. And so you don't have that sort of cascade knock-on effect. And there's 9 examples of this in the world already that have proven to be really successful. So the aim here is to roll this approach out everywhere.
And this is a new framework that could provide a model for a sustainable yet profitable, what's the word I'm looking for, use of the assets.
Yeah, we like to frame it as there's protection, there's production, and there's equitable prosperity. And which is exactly what a sustainable ocean economy should be. We've got to have it. It must be healthy, first of all, but we must use it. And the benefits that are derived from it mustn't be all in one person's pocket. It should be equitably shared with the local communities and the country itself. This provides that vehicle to do that.
How does this 70-30 system work in practice? Like, I'm trying to picture whether it's a case of we take an area and then a 30% portion is untouched and the rest is used, or is it more like we consider the whole thing, but we only use 30% of its potential as a whole?
It's the first opportunity, and
so it's an actual perimeter within that bigger area that is untouched.
that's not necessarily untouched, but protected. So you'd be restricted activities that would be damaging, and it wouldn't necessarily be a big 30% chunk. It might be smaller areas, but it would be approximately 30%. Yeah, and because that is what countries have signed up to in the Global Biodiversity Framework. If you just focus on the actual, right, this area is going to be for wind farms, and this area is on fisheries, and this area is protected, that's marine spatial planning, or MSP, and that's been around for a while, and that's very much first part of this. So the marine spatial planning element is this activity here, this activity here. What a sustainable ocean plan does is it elevates that to ensuring that these, not just location-wise, but all the factors are considered as well. A great example here is in Fiji. They're in their Sustainable Ocean Plan, they've incorporated an Ocean Council, which sits above all the departments in government. And so if there is an ocean issue, it goes from one department, it goes to the council. So everyone's aware of it, everyone can input into it. So, for example, if the Navy wants to do something, the Ministry of Defence is obviously in charge of that, but it goes to the council, and then that ensures that any of the elements in the other, like fisheries or tourism or transport, they're aware and they can feed into that decision. So it's really straightforward, and it's just applying that. What we find is there's very, very few countries that have a minister for the ocean, and that's what you need. You need something like that. But the minute you draw that, because the ocean is so cross-cutting, something will fall out of that remit. So the Sustainable Ocean Plan allows for all the various uses, including protection, to come together in one place.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking, well, this sounds like this requires a lot of coordination, a lot of awareness of everything that's going on. So what makes it possible? Is it the fact that it's coordinated by a government because it's national waters? Does it need a lot of data?
Yes.
How does that work?
So that's a great question. So yeah, national coordination is required. And because what we have is, in many countries, you have different bodies in government managing certain areas, and it's fragmented. So you may all have the same goal, maybe, but you're all doing it in slightly different ways. Or you may even have different goals. My priority is protection. My priority is landing more fish, and my priority is generating wind energy.
And that might be this year, and who knows what's going to happen next year.
Exactly, and this framework pulls it all together. But you're right, it does need data, it does need a baseline of, this is where we're at. And it doesn't matter if you don't have that information, because you can identify the unknowns. It's like, we don't understand this. So one of the things we need to do is generate that data. And that's another opportunity for people willing to step in and support these things. It's data collection. It's also capacity building on how to do it themselves. Maybe it's supporting someone external coming in and collecting that data for you, and then even actually drafting the plans. With the Ocean Panel, which the 19 countries in the Ocean Panel have all made a commitment to produce or to do this, to deliver a sustainable ocean plan. 9 countries have published theirs. There's already, they're on our website, and anyone can check to see what people have actually done already. And these countries are very happy to share them and very happy to work with others, to share learnings. But what we also do is we do things called joint learning events, where we go to regions and we meet with countries who are interested in this, and we explain what they are, how they work. We have representatives from other countries come and say, this is what we did, and this is why we're doing it. So it's not just like an NGO saying, this is a great idea. You actually have another country say, we did it. It's massively beneficial.
Yeah, and you can start getting the data from that experiment or that case study.
You can use their learnings to see how to apply it. So our goal is to get every coastal and island state doing this, because we think it's the right way to sustainably manage the ocean. Starting with the national waters. Why national waters? It's because you don't require someone else to come in and add their contribution to it, which just slows things down. But this would be 1/3 of the ocean surface, which is incredible.
Be a big win.
Yeah, and it's not just us. It's not just the Ocean Panel. the IOC, which is the International Oceanographic Council, which is part of UNESCO, they have a sustainable ocean plan and management strategy, which has been signed off by 152 countries. And this is, this essentially is exactly the same. We work very closely with IOC on this. And the United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice last June, the political declaration which came out of that, this is a UN document, actually incorporates the 100% approach, saying that, this is something that should be adopted. So it's got that political backing as well. We just need to implement it.
Yeah, and so far 9 countries have implemented this approach.
Nine countries have published their SOPs, and 30 countries in total have committed to doing this.
Just, I'm curious, roughly where are these countries? Are we talking Europe, North America?
It's very global, actually. So we have the 19 countries of the Ocean Panel, which includes small island developing states like Fiji, Palau, Seychelles, Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, Canada, Chile, Mexico, UK, Norway, France, Portugal, Japan, Australia, Indonesia.
So these are the ones that have committed.
They're the 19 in the Ocean Panel. We've had Panama and the Republic of Korea. They've announced. We have 8 countries in the Gulf of Guinea who have also committed as well. So that brings the total to 30 countries. The Commonwealth launched something called the Apia Ocean Declaration in October 2024. And that also includes the 100% approach as well. So there's this real momentum building around this. So we've got the interest. We're starting to see things. We're starting to see this sort of become a global norm. It's the next step is just make it happen. And that's, that is the challenge, isn't it? It's getting this moving forward because it will benefit everyone.
Okay. We started with the 3 pillars of
Yes.
demand. Let's take a step back. So we talked a bit about the energy side of things. We hinted at data a couple of times. Should we talk about food?
Yeah, absolutely. So Blue Foods is an area I'm passionate about. At the moment, there's 3 billion people on the planet are absolutely dependent on protein that comes from the sea. In terms of wild fisheries, there's about 90 million tons a year produced. It's slightly more is now farmed. So there's more seafood comes from aquaculture than it does from wild capture. It's like 48%, 52% split. A third of the fish stocks are overfished. A third of the fish stocks are like at maximum capacity, and a third are underfished or not at maximum capacity is a better way to put it. So there's room for some expansion. We could probably expand wild capture fisheries by 20 million tons.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, which would, is still at maximum sustainable yield. But we could also secure an additional 21 million tons if we just reduced waste of edible food, edible seafood. Most of that waste actually occurs in the global north rather than the global south, where they really don't waste a lot. So that's sort of the big growth area, of course, is aquaculture.
Which I'm super interested in. I just want to, I can't just leave that thing about waste alone for, or ignore it. That sounds like a lot of waste.
Yes, it's
What's the
15% of the catch.
Why is that? What's happening?
Just inefficiencies, really. And I think lack of innovation. What do you do with a skeleton? We call it a frame. So it's the head, the tail, and the skeleton. What do you do with that? If you're, selling fish to eat to someone, they want a fillet.
Of course.
What do you do with it? I don't know what to do with it. Throw it away. There's a superb innovation centre in Reykjavik in Iceland that are focused on 100% utilisation. They've been going for a number of years now. They are leaders in this, and they're working towards 100% utilization, and they use things like skin off the fish for bandages for burns, also for leather, collagen in beauty products, just using everything, even the bone meal. And this is fantastic. So the technology is there. Obviously depends on the species. Obviously in Iceland, it's sort of North Atlantic species. We've actually been involved in a similar initiative in Namibia, working with the hake fishery, seeing almost identical results. You can use everything. So there's a real opportunity here to take this sort of innovative cluster approach to other areas of the world where there is challenges with fish waste, and see how we can not just utilize 100%, but get a commercial benefit from it. I mean, fish leather products now are really, they're wonderful.
Fish leather.
Yeah, honestly. I know it sounds
What does that
bizarre.
look like?
It's similar to leather, but it's a bit more shiny. It's actually very robust.
So it's an actual like textile product.
Yeah, that's right.
That's incredible. I had no idea.
Yeah, Vidar, who's here, actually it's a keyring with salmon skin, I think it is, on it.
Fantastic.
So, there's products that you can do that are actually wanted by people, and people will pay money for it. So it's all about the return, because people are not going to utilize it if it's going to cost them. They're just going to throw it away. So you've got to have that return, and that's where the innovation comes in, and there's opportunities there for people to...
So this could be an untapped opportunity for ocean founders and entrepreneurs.
Definitely. It's supporting, ideally you want to work with communities. It's supporting communities to come up with novel ideas and help them generate a market for these products, whatever they could be, depending on the fish that they have.
Is there an opportunity for biomaterials?
Yep.
Other than leather, or other ingredients, materials, even active ingredients potentially?
Yeah, it's seemingly unlimited. It does depend on the fish, of course. So I mean, I've seen this great one of using the bone, ground up bone into a powder, using that as a food supplement because it provides sort of calcium. So and you can just add it to food products.
Do you find that for anybody who's listening and thinking, oh yeah, that sounds exciting and it's something that I could put my mind into, does that require still a lot of R&D and innovation in terms of finding?
I would be really happy to chat with anyone, and we can put them in contact with my colleagues who work on this product, and they actually helped establish the Namibian Ocean Cluster. There's so much learning that can be taken from Iceland and Namibia and just then applied elsewhere with different challenges, different species.
It's a good time to ask you then, where can people find you and get in touch?
Probably the best bet is wri.org. So, and then just look at the ocean program, and my contact details are all there.
So we left one last pillar. Assuming you're happy to move on from food?
I mean, I would say with aquaculture is the growth area. Aquaculture is...
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about...
it's well established. It's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, investment in aquaculture doesn't necessarily work because I've seen, people were talking about farming halibut, for example, Atlantic halibut. But the price you get is actually, it's the price you need to charge for it is actually higher than you can catch it for. And so the economics don't work out. Yeah. So it has to be a species that is easily farmed. And there are some great examples. I mean, salmon is the example. It's gone from very tiny in cottage industry to the biggest. Yeah, it has its challenges. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
I've just recently been to Chile, and Argentina, and there's a lot of talk about that.
One of the challenges with fed fish is that you have to fish. You have to go and fish to turn into feed to feed the farm fish. So there is a bit of a sort of an additional
inefficiency.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a big advocate of bivalves. So these are mussels, oysters, clams. These are filter feeders. You don't have to add anything to the water. They filter it out. Yeah. And they are the most sustainable source of long chain omega-3s.
And they're delicious. But let me ask you this, because I want to keep to the theme of, okay, if I'm a founder, entrepreneur, where is the demand? Of course, there's demand for salmon.
Yeah.
Is there demand for, shellfish? Or maybe another way to put it is, if you were to advise somebody new coming in, where do you see it as the most exciting opportunities in aquaculture where demand exists?
Yeah, so that will depend on the country, to be honest, or the...
Okay.
One of the most difficult things is shifting diets. If you pick any country in the world, there's probably a 5 or 6 species that are the most consumed ones, and then there's a huge tail. In the UK, for example, it's salmon, cod, haddock, tuna, prawns. And that hasn't changed for a long time. Yeah. So you've got to have something innovative. You've got to go for a gap in the market there. Pangasius.
Meaning it needs to be one of those?
No, I think it's you've got to sort of seek out how you can distinguish yourself. And one of the opportunities, I think, are the increasing prices of white fish like cod. Yeah. We're seeing the prices are going up. There's an opportunity there for something to come in and fill the gap. And it could be other wild caught fish like pollock or coley or saithe, different word for the same fish. Or it could be farm fish like pangasius or tilapia that could fill that gap as well. So the times are changing. It really depends on the market. For the UK, for example, we don't really like fishy fish with bones in. So we like big fleshy white fish that doesn't taste of fish. And that's where some of the farm varieties can come in.
Yeah.
So it does depend on the market you're looking at. But aquaculture is something that when we start talking about food security and we start talking about politics, countries are paying more attention to food security. The US, for example, is looking at increasing aquaculture production. Other countries, I imagine, will follow suit there. So there are going to be opportunities there. But it's at the minute, it's low on the, if you go to any discussion about food security, seafood is often ignored. So that's one of the things we're doing, is trying to shift the narrative on that.
What do you think that is?
I think it's out of mind. It's not anything nefarious. People are, I can give you 10 examples where there's been a food security document from the government and it just ignores seafood. Or
Completely.
It focuses on alternative proteins. And it's like, okay, I'm sure that's part of the solution, but what about this huge opportunity we have?
Yeah, it strikes me as odd because, we know that agriculture isn't going to cut it long term, with population and yield decreasing in some cases. So just in terms of getting the necessary calories, agriculture is going to struggle. So, and of course, the planet has got a lot of ocean.
Yeah. And there is so much opportunity for expansion that can be done in a way that is, within limits, that's manageable. So it's absolutely the solution. People talk about, shifting to a plant-based diet. And I that's part of it, but you can't just say plant-based full stop, because where's the land? We're going to run out of land. In the water, it's three-dimensional. You don't just have you don't just have land, you have 3 dimensions. And this is really important for aquaculture, because you can take up more volume with, less land space or seabed space.
I don't know if this is something that has been on your radar at all, but it's something that is close to me because, of course, this podcast used to be about the seaweed industry. It started as Inside Seaweed for the first 2-3 years and then moved into more of a wider blue economy space. What sort of have you made of the seaweed industry coming up and the opportunities in seaweed aquaculture?
It's huge.
Really?
Absolutely huge. And I think the demand is there. It's just the volumes. I think if more is produced, it will be purchased, and it will be utilized in either food or biomaterials or elsewhere. There's that's just the production itself. There's also the opportunity to utilize seaweed in integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. Now this area, this is like regenerative agriculture, but in the water. So the idea here is you have like a fed fish, like salmon, for example, in a pen. You often have material falling downwards. So you put product on the bottom. You put sea cucumbers, depending on where you are, or lobsters, something like that, that will feed off that waste. Then you have the particulate organic matter that's coming out of the tank. Put mussels or filter feeders that will clean the water and filter that out. And then you put seaweed, and seaweed can absorb the dissolved organic matter, the dissolved chemicals as well. As you have this system that reduces the impact, carbon sink, other opportunities, say the lobster, for example, or the sea cucumbers, depending on where you are. Probably not the mussels, because the water quality might not be what you demand for human consumption, but it's still doing the job. So that is another opportunity as well, rather than just absolute production. But this can be grown anywhere. It grows totally quick. It just needs investment to support, companies, because it is that upfront cost.
Yes, and I suppose from the point of view of a salmon farmer, or say a salmon farmer, there's not a lot of incentives at the moment.
No one's demanding it, and that's what why would I do that? It's going to cost.
It's going to be a pain.
Yeah, and no one's asked, and I'm not going to get any benefit, because my customers will probably buy from my competitor for the same price. So that needs to shift. That's a sort of a markets approach there, or it could be a regulatory approach. It could be like, right, we want all farms to do this. So that's another way.
That'd be my bet if I had.
Yeah, I think that the market pressures are great, but there's always going to be there's going to be a spectrum within the market of the high operators and the people who are doing it on cost.
Okay, we left one third pillar, data.
Yes.
Very important for ocean tech startups that are keen to bring, innovation, but even just innovate with existing technologies. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, no, yesterday, who, long story short, has identified that in shipping, the technology that has been used for years is basically big lever arch folders with lots of information and PDFs and stuff like that. Sort of the way he framed it was still captains are still working with technology that they would have had in 1995, and there's such opportunities to just update it to 2020, and that would be a massive shift. So ocean data, who wants ocean data? Where's the demand for ocean data?
So this global ocean observations are so critically important. Having that data, so the scientific institutes have that data, and then they utilize it in modeling, forecasting, and it's essential. Without it, we just do not know what's happening in the water, or the climate change obviously is a big driver there to see what's happening with that. But it's also everything else, like shipping and alerts for weather, everything like that, even the blue food side of things. So how is it, if there is a particular shift in the North Atlantic, for example, then you see the fish move from the east to the west, and that obviously impacts the management of the...
This is stock management.
That's right. So it's hugely important. I mentioned we work with 19 countries. They have identified global ocean observations as one of the 7 top priorities that they want to work on. They are so, they are so into this. It's unbelievable. We've got 19 different countries from around the world. They are all aligned on the importance of this. They're also all aligned on the absolute need for more data at less cost, because, budgets are limited. Mm-hmm. They want more data. They want innovation. They want technology to support them. There's a lot of technology providers here. In other events, one of the things we can do is we can bring them together. We can introduce them to the countries. We could introduce them to the Global Ocean Observation System, which is, the coordination body for this data. It's an opportunity for innovators to step up and say, we can deliver. Maybe we can deliver this much, but this much is incredible. Because if you have this much here, then you have this much here, then all of a sudden you're adding a hell of a lot more data. So, for example, fishing vessels are out on the water all the time. How can they contribute data? They don't need to be scientists. They just need to be recording things. Ships, for example, as you say, their data, could it be digitized? Could it be then submitted automatically to the collator of that data?
So from, again, the point of view of somebody wanting to come in and, in very practical terms, if the demand, if countries, governments are interested and it's a priority and the demand is there from their perspective, does that mean startups or companies can apply to grants, government-funded grants, and then go in and develop these solutions? Or is there, do you feel, demand from, say, fisheries or shipping companies, ports, and they become the clients, they become the source of demand?
Yeah, this is one of the big challenges we face, which is the funding side of things. And to give you an example of the challenges we face, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, one of which is Life Under the Water, number 14. Yep. That receives less than 1% of all the funding of the 17. So the ocean requires, we've $550 billion a year, in addition to what it's got, to deliver on a sustainable ocean economy. So there's a huge gap. And so getting grants is one potential opportunity. They're highly competitive. They're often very diverse. It's not always easy. The timing might not work. Securing grant funding is really difficult. So this is an opportunity for investors to come in and support a company, because if a product is developed that is providing better data at lower cost, or more data at lower cost, then that is a real opportunity, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for more data, less cost, through innovation and automation.
I guess the problem with investors coming in, at least sort of institutional investors and pension funds, is that ocean startups are scary for them. They're exciting and cool, but they carry too much risk.
Yeah. And why is that? It's because of the lack of stability. And that is one of the ways we can address that is through better data. So we are in a kind of like a Mobius strip.
So it's like
Yeah. Which is, I completely understand it. It is, it can be viewed as an unstable environment, particularly like fisheries, for example. It's wild harvest in most of if it's wild, and you're at the mercy of the climatic conditions.
Of course. Yes, so many variables.
Yeah.
I suppose maybe there is an opportunity for improving and sort of modernizing established companies, established sectors that maybe are not as sexy and, exciting, but they still need not necessarily new technology, but just bringing them to this decade,
Yeah, I mean, the technology we have nowadays is incredible. And, a lot of people don't have the investment up front to update their system. I mean, there's examples of boats not even using ice to put the fish on. I mean, that is changing slowly. So you've got some fishing boats not using ice. Often day boats, they're not using ice. So the quality is being impacted. And I know that's not like a data thing, but it goes to show how
basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the other spectrum. You have boats or fisheries that are highly profitable. The boats are like something out of like starships. They're absolutely incredible with all the technology because the investment is there. So it's completely doable, and this all exists. But if you don't have the finances to deliver it, and it's just life, isn't it? If you don't have the money, you can't improve the way you're doing things, and everything is inefficient. But yeah, if you were able to just take fishing vessels, upgrade all the fishing vessels to make them efficient, they have the tracking on it, so it makes the management better. You can catch the fish. It means you're using less fuel. It's all better, but it all requires investment. And, people don't have that up front, and they can't get loans on it because, well, the quota might collapse next year.
So risk is the name of the game, really, when it comes to ocean finance.
It needs bravery. It needs someone to take that first step.
Who would you see as the most likely player in finance to be brave? I know that we could do another whole hour on ocean finance.
Yeah.
And we need to wrap this up. But who would you, if you had to put a bet for the next 5 years, would you see as the most likely?
It's probably a combination of the sovereign wealth funds, particularly if they're tying in with the political, the country's political drivers.
Yeah.
But also the philanthropies as well, because they're not necessarily looking for a return in terms of financial return. They're looking for a return in terms of things getting better.
Yeah.
So there's not that level of expectation in terms of the pure capitalist one. Then we have that problem of people expecting, what am I going to get back from it?
Yeah.
Well,
you're thinking venture capital.
Yeah. So this is where we need to tie things. This is why I think sustainable ocean plans are really helpful, because you're actually tying extraction to the bigger picture of protection as well. Otherwise, you're just putting money into extraction, or you're just putting money into protection.
Okay. So it's like the combination of the two.
That's right. So if I'm putting in $1 million into this project here, I'm putting money into protection, but I'm not getting any return on that. But I am getting money back from the extractive industry that actually depends on the protection as well. And that's the way I think we have to sort of try to frame it. So this more holistic approach.
Nice. We've gone full circle.
Yes.
Back to the beginning. Excellent. Anything more do you want to add before we bring this to a close?
I just think, we live on a planet that 2/3 is the ocean, and yet it's overlooked almost all the time. And so I think it's, we need to reframe that and realize that it is, the ocean is the solution to many of our challenges. But it's got to be done properly, and it's got to be done in a way that balances production and protection.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.